So Leopold Ashburner has been fully liquidated and margin called. As you can see, this is his new portfolio, zero holdings, and a good video for how not to use leverage. And what I've done is I put his portfolio into the IBKR risk terminal so I could see exactly what he was looking at for his long positions. And to be honest, I was quite shocked because he was levered right up to the hilt. So his actual net liquid value, this is for the long positions. Okay, he had shorts. I'm just looking at the longs. Net liquid is around about 896 million. And even here on the risk ledger, it's already margin called. He's way out already here. Maintenance margin is 2.5 billion. And that's with portfolio margin. So I'm thinking he maybe had some sort of special agreement with Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan for like a prime brokerage, because when I was looking at it, I thought there's just no way this works. But he was basically 4x leverage, so it's like a 75% loan to value. And right here it's already at 82%, but keep in mind the positions have already crashed and he's already gone, it's already done. Net exposure 558%. So when you look at it, to put it into simple terms, just how levered he was, you see here, like weighted beta says his portfolio was 3, so 3 times the stock market, but you have to times it by 558% over leverage. So really, to put it simply, if the S&P 500 crashed 1%, his portfolio should crash like 17%. So you can imagine just how close he was to the edge at all times. Yeah, so a 16.9x multiplier. So really, he's controlling over $5 billion just of his long positions. And he was in a profit, 1.46 billion in profit, which probably gave him a false sense of security. And he had already done 2,000% last year. So he was in an absolute streak. He was correct. I mean, this guy was supposedly a genius. I mean, he's far more intelligent than me. And that when I look at it, I think there's just no way anyone would do this. I was like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you do this? Why would you lever up so high? And I started looking into it, and the conclusion I come to is you would only do this if it wasn't your own money, because there's no way you would even be able to sleep at night. The positions were the most volatile stocks, like SanDisk, Bloom Energy, and we know it was mainly SanDisk that crashed them. The whole of the South Korean stock market felt this pain. And I think this is really what done it. Even though he was in the position early, according to his filings, he was in around 635. He just was over leveraged, and it's just completely irresponsible. So, but I don't think he cares, because it's not his money. And he'd already banked in a massive amount of asset under management fees. The asset under management fees were likely getting paid every quarter, every month. So he was getting that hundreds of millions from the last year. He'd done 2,000%. And anyone that got in late, like anyone that joined the fund late, will be very upset. Yeah. Just how volatile it really was. But then when you look at it, I thought, why didn't he just run it safely? Less leverage, and he's already picking the stocks. He's obviously got a talent for something to get 2,000% in 2025. And I thought, well, why doesn't he just keep it composed and only borrow like 20%, 30%? But then I started to realise the fees you get for generating like 500%, 2,000% is hundreds of millions. So from last year, he'd already banked that money. He's already got that money and cashed out. So it's almost like they're incentivized, these hedge funds are incentivized just to go for broke because it's not their money. If he gets margin called, okay, the fund blows up, but it was never really all his money in the first place. The outside investors are the ones that lose. Because, tell me this, how would you sleep at night with 75%, the market just has to sneeze and your margin called? Yeah, there's just, no human would do that with their own money. There's just no way. So I think it's like a good lesson on how not to use margin. I feel like there's two extremes. It's either all or nothing. People are either levered up to their eyeballs, or they don't use it at all because they're terrified to get margin called. But the people that are terrified to get margin called are the ones that definitely won't. So I put together what I would suggest is conservative leverage. So in my videos I say if someone's borrowing for lifestyle, they want to just spend money, they have like a margin enabled account like in the USA, I would say 20% once your portfolio is at a certain threshold. But if you're buying more stocks, I say 30%, because the portfolio goes up because you're buying more stock. So look here, $100,000 of stocks, and you borrow 30%, 30 grand. So you get 30 grand more of stocks. The actual loan to value is 23%. Debt to equity 30%. And keep in mind, your dividends will slightly offset the cost of the margin. So cost of the margin here is like 5.1%. So $80 a month, $960 a year. And you get access to more positions. Now, it only works with big tech monopolies or big monopolies. It doesn't work with, risky positions. And it only works as well for buy and hold, because if you just start selling the positions, you're not going to get the dividend payment. And you're just playing the game of trying to be a hedge fund who's trying to time the market. And that's a game we probably will never win. But what I do is I change, for my philosophy is I completely change. I play within the rules that we know we can win in. And that is companies that we are consistently generating cash flow, that are highly profitable, have massive return on invested capital. So I've just put these together, and Amazon doesn't pay a dividend, but all of the rest of them do. MasterCard, Apple, Google, Meta, Broadcom, Microsoft, Nvidia, of course, Amazon. So if you were just to simply buy and hold this stock in this portfolio, you're not going to get margin called, because they would have to crash like 60%, and they actually have earnings to protect them. They have a floor. And you're paying, $80 a month to own 30 grand worth of assets that you would otherwise not own. And in the normal world, no one's going to give you 30 grand, either an asset or a liability, for $80 a month. It's just not going to happen. So even if, what I try and explain is, even if the stocks were all flat for 12 months, you're still making intrinsic value. The money, the earnings are going up, they're compounding and they're growing, so you are still benefiting. The market just has not corrected it yet. Obviously, Amazon's the only one that doesn't pay a dividend, but Amazon have never paid a dividend or buy back the stock. They're quite ruthless. Amazon I think Jeff Bezos just said in 97, look, you're not getting buybacks, you're not getting dividends, take it or leave it. But he compounds the operating cash flow at like 20, 30, 40% sometimes year over year. So he just does it through, Amazon do it through absolute brute force. But you can absolutely use leverage conservatively. You just don't need to do what a hedge fund does. Risky positions. You would never sleep at night. You want to hold stocks where you can actually sleep at night. There's no point in buying these high volatile, high risk as well companies that are not predictable. Why play that game? Yeah, I would rather be right than try and be right first.